Most people spend their lives running, not from war, not from pain, but from something much quieter, something always watching. Death. It's the shadow beneath every smile, the silence at the end of every sentence, the moment behind the curtain we never want to pull back. But the samurai, they turned toward it. They looked at death not as a monster to be feared, but as a mirror, one that stripped away all illusions. While others wasted years chasing comfort, the samurai trained for a single truth. To be ready for death is to finally be free to live. They didn't ignore it. They invited it. With every swing of the blade, every silent morning in the dojo, every breath before the storm, they were not preparing for the enemy. They were preparing for the end. And something strange happened when they did. Fear lost its grip. Noise faded. Clarity sharpened. The samurai did not seek fearlessness. They sought peace in the presence of fear, and they found it not by avoiding death, but by walking straight into its gaze and not blinking. To the samurai, death was not a surprise. It was a companion, always near, always watching, and always accepted. From the moment a warrior chose the path of Bushido, he made a silent vow. I will not run from death. I will walk beside it. Where others saw the end, the samurai saw the beginning of truth. This wasn't fatalism, it was freedom. Because when you accept death, truly accept it, you no longer fear embarrassment, rejection, failure, or loss. You move with purpose, speak with clarity, act with stillness. Not because you are cold, but because your spirit is already resolved. Every day a samurai was taught to rehearse his death, not in despair, but in discipline. In that mental practice, they stripped away what didn't matter. They became clean, simple, focused. The man who has died before his death is the most alive of all. By facing death early, they were reborn into a life of precision, intention, and fearlessness. They didn't fear losing time, they feared wasting it. The samurai did not wait for death to arrive. They met it every morning, before the armor, before the sword, before the battle. They sat, and they imagined the end, not as a nightmare, but as a teacher whispering in silence. They pictured betrayal. They pictured failure. They pictured the blade piercing flesh, theirs. And then they rose, still, sharp, present. Because when you've already died in your mind, you are no longer controlled by what might happen. This practice had a name. It was not superstition. It was not morbidity. It was clarity. To die daily is to kill what is false, to let the ego burn in imagined fire so that what remains is real, a mind uncluttered, a purpose unhindered, a will that cannot be bent by fear. Others begin their day worried about failure. The samurai began by facing it. That's why they moved without hesitation. That's why they stood still when others broke. The warrior who dies each morning walks through the day untouchable. They were not suicidal. They were sovereign. They did not wish to die, they simply refused to be owned by the fear of it. Fear does not begin with death. It begins with the refusal to accept it. In a world that hides from silence, drowns in distraction, and chases artificial control, fear grows like a shadow behind every step. Not because death is near, but because we pretend it isn't, and in pretending we weaken. The samurai saw this clearly. They saw how fear clouds judgment, how it shakes the hand holding the sword, how it paralyzes men long before battle begins. Fear corrupts the present. It makes us second-guess, stall, avoid. We fear rejection, so we silence ourselves. We fear loss, so we never fully commit. We fear death, so we never truly live. But the samurai refused to carry that weight, because they knew, he who fears death dies 1,000 times, but the one who accepts it dies only once. In truth, it is fear, not death, that steals life. It steals time. It steals courage. It steals the moment right in front of you. The samurai trained to remove that fear, not by denying death, but by inviting it into their awareness, so that when it came, there would be nothing left undone, nothing unsaid, nothing to regret. There is power in speed. There is power in strength. But the highest power is calm, not passive, not soft, but forged in fire and unmoved by it. The samurai understood this better than any warrior, because they faced chaos not with panic, but with presence. Their sword was not guided by rage. It was guided by breath, by balance, by a mind undisturbed. While others screamed, the samurai exhaled. While others trembled, they stepped forward, quiet and clear. This was not natural. It was trained, built slowly, through repetition, through ritual, through constant confrontation with fear, until fear had no voice left. The calmest man in the room holds the most power, because calm is not the absence of fear, it is the dominion over it. The warrior's calm came from knowing he had nothing to prove, nothing to lose, nothing to cling to. He had already died, so there was no need to rush. He had already let go, so there was no weight to carry. What remained was clarity, and in clarity, precision. This is why a single movement from the calm warrior breaks 1,000 frantic ones. This is why the samurai never flinched, because when the storm came, they had already become stillness itself. To live without fear, you must first let go, not just of life, but of the illusions that trap it. The samurai understood this with piercing clarity. Honor was not found in holding on. It was found in releasing what did not serve the path. Status, recognition, control, even life itself. They let it go, not out of weakness, but because they had trained their spirit to rise above it. What does fear feed on? Attachment. To outcomes, to praise, to things you think you need to survive. But when you release all of it, you become untouchable. You fear nothing because nothing owns you. Not the past, not the future, not even death. This was the samurai's freedom. They could act without hesitation, fight without flinching, and die without regret. Because they had already given everything away. They fought not to survive, but to honor the moment. They lived not to accumulate, but to become worthy of the life they were gifted. And so, they were not fearless. They were emptied of fear, calm, still, unbreakable, because the man who has nothing to lose has everything to give. If you died yesterday, how would you live today? Would you waste time doubting yourself? Would you carry the weight of old fears? Would you hesitate to speak, to act, to fight for what matters? Or would you rise with clarity, with presence, with a mind free from all that once held you back? The samurai did not wait for the end to ask these questions. They answered them every day. And in doing so, they lived with a sharpness the world could not dull. They walked through life already having made peace with death. And that is why they were truly alive. To live as though you've already died is to be unafraid of what comes next. No approval needed, no outcome required, no moment wasted. Just purpose, just honor, just the warrior, fully present. So ask yourself now, if death came tomorrow, what part of you would die unlived? And if the answer is any part at all, then today is your moment, your practice, your path. Not to escape death, but to walk beside it, calmly, completely, without fear. Because the man who walks with death at his side does not falter, he does not retreat. He simply nods and steps forward,